Bingo.
Is it working?
Def-
Hello? Hello? All right, cool. Hello, this is the 215 Super Podcast, the podcast that dives into Philadelphia Phillies baseball and, of course, the MLB in general. I'm one of your co hosts, Austin Cass, and I'm with Connor Doherty and Dylan Campbell. Today, around the horn, we'll be talking about the MLB lockout and updates with the meeting, if Hoskin needs to be remodeled, and much more around the league. So, how was everyone's day going?
Going great. Happy to be here, highlight of the day. Uh, too bad it was a rough loss on Sunday from there. That was pretty brutal, but hey, it's better now.
I really
yeah,
wish you could
together
bring
we
that up.
build, right? Together we build.
Together we build. Austin's now down in the dumps.
Yeah, I didn't even want to cut you off. It's just you broke my heart. Absolutely. The Eagles were completely pathetic. Thankfully, now we could just talk about the Phillies because the Eagles are done, and we could talk about Sixers, of course, for a little bit, but in my opinion, we should probably just focus on the Philadelphia Phillies and nothing about Jalen Reagor, who is the biggest bum in history. Anyway, let's get down to business. Connor, you are up the bat. What would you got?
I wanted to talk some prospects today, actually.
Okay.
There hasn't been much movement on the MLB front as far as transactions and really any player personnel wise at all. So I'm going to talk about some of the Phillies prospects, and I think I'm going to start with my guy who I have ranked number one, Phillies 2020 first round draft pick, 15th overall, Mick Abel. He's overall graded at the 2080 scale at a 55 overall, which, if you guys aren't familiar with that, 20 is the lowest you can go, and 80 is the highest you can go. 50 is about, no, maybe 40 is about average, but fastball grades is 60, curveball is a 50, slider 55, changeup 55, control 55 for an overall score of 55. So he shows pretty good control and velocity, obviously with the fastball at a 60 grade. For a 20-year-old, he can get up there velocity wise.
Mm-hmm.
I think he averages consistently 95, but can get up to 98. Something you got to be careful with though, because a lot of young pitchers coming out of high school, those flamethrowers, those real young guys that come out of the draft and they're immediately throwing like 98, 99. That's a lot of torque on that arm, especially if they're starting somewhere low in the minors, like Mick Abel is. I think he's only at single A right now. He might be at high A.
I think he's in Clearwater, yeah.
Yeah, like either way, that's a big Tommy John concern. Maybe you want to bring him along, not necessarily slowly, but definitely be very, very cautious with how they bring him along. I don't want to, I'd rather have him pitch a successful minor league career, take his time getting to the majors instead of rushing him through the minors, getting him to the majors at 22, 23 years old. He pitches for a year and then blows his arm out, and we have another Sir Anthony Dominguez situation. Right now, he's a MLB ETA 2024. I think that's fair, but at the same time, that's 3 years away from now. That's like 2 full seasons, and then plus however much longer it takes him in 2024 to reach the majors, which with the Phillies we know could be not until September. But going back to what I said, I would rather him be up in September of that year to make sure that like everything is going smoothly, everything's going according to plan, and there's no arm issues or nothing. Because the last thing we want is another Spencer Howard situation. Moving on to my number 2 prospect, I have Andrew Painter. He's 18 years old currently. Phillies 13th overall pick in the 2021 draft. Stands at a he's built like a, maybe not like a stick, but he's 6'7", only 215. So I think he's definitely got room to fill out. I don't really know where he played as far as which affiliate he played. I think it might have been low A. You guys want to help me out with that? Which low A team are we?
I believe it was Williamsport Crosscutters, maybe when they still had them.
Yeah, that
I
might
want to
be
say.
it.
Let me
I'll
check.
check.
Yeah, so he grades out at a 50 overall, but like McAble, he's got a 60 fastball, 55 curveball, and a 55 changeup and 55 control. His slider grades out at a 50. So maybe not necessarily we're looking at a starter, but maybe a guy who could, if he's a little bit erratic with his control and doesn't necessarily have the best stamina, like because at that frame 6'7", 215, like you're gonna need to put on weight to be able to stay healthy. And if he puts on the correct amount of weight, like maybe he gets up to maybe 235, 240, 245, something like that. In my opinion, that's a pretty good closer body type. And he's got the stuff for it. He's got a fastball that sits 93, 95, but can get up to 96. He's got two different kinds of fastball, actually. He's got the 2-seamer and the 4-seamer. And he likes to pitch up in the zone. His curveball is like a kind of a true 12-6 curve. And he sits about mid to upper 70s with it. And then he's got a wipeout slider, the mid 80s kind of slider. Not necessarily wipeout, but the velocity is a little bit slower than a typical closer slider would be. Because you see guys like Chapman he's throwing 103 and then his slider's friggin' 94, which isn't fair. But again, if he adds muscle, maybe he can get it up to high 80s. And he still has that changeup. And honestly, I think a changeup is one of the easier pitches to develop. I think it's more of getting the grip down. And then once you have that grip down, it's just finding a feel for it. And even when you're like when he's just having a catch, you could just be throwing changeups. Maybe find a little bit of movement for it. And if the curveball or the slider doesn't work out, he's still got a pretty solid 3-pitch mix. But I would rather see him as a starter, obviously. But in my opinion, I do think he'll end up developing as a closer. What do you guys think about that? Closer, starter?
Yeah. Do you mind if I piggyback off that for a second? So I remember this summer I was irate about the Andrew Painter pick, and I was also upset about the McAble pick earlier on. And it's not because I don't like them as players or prospects. Here's why. I thought that they're projects, right? So these guys aren't going to contribute at all to this Phillies core as is to, make a playoff push, right? I mean, we're saying 2024, that's hopeful. On average, it takes a high schooler 4 years to reach the majors. I wanted them to get college guys. It takes 2 years. You can actually make an impact, whatever, you know what I mean? Water under the bridge. I would love to see Painter as a starter because I think when you pick guys that high up, you have the hope that they will be future, rotation pieces. I think it's kind of interesting. They clearly went for build with both of these guys, but it's also that risk factor. They went for the long, lanky flamethrowers out of high school. But like you said, Connor, everyone out of high school now throws 95 or up, right? It's a different league, and the stress that can be placed on you is very scary. So Painter only threw 6 innings in rookie level complex ball this summer. And I think they really do.
In pro ball?
In pro ball, only 6 innings. And I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. Because why are we going to make, you think about Dylan Bundy, you think about Tyler Kopech for the Marlins years ago. Why are we going to have just another disastrous, draft bust when they really cannot afford to have another disastrous draft bust? I think it's kind of interesting. I thought I remember reading that Painter had really good control and he had good plus pitches, but I think there was the concern of, can he add more velocity and movement to that slider? And then Abel, I thought, had maybe slightly better breaking stuff, but he was still kind of getting the control. I still think they both had plus control of their fastball and nice command, and people were excited about them. I'm excited. I mean, yeah, clearly there are, along with whoever else you're going to mention, our biggest prospects. And while we won't see them immediately, I think they could definitely be good.
Yeah, Austin.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut it up at all. I completely agree with you, Dylan, about the whole idea about like these projects. And I actually want to say I hate the idea that Philadelphia sports organizations just think you can make a player just like that. When it's a good idea, it's always good to have like players like that in your league, but they shouldn't be your main idea. I think a problem that we see with even like not just the Phillies, but like the Sixers and the Eagles is that there's a lot of players that they have, which are mostly for development. Like they're developing to be players. Like Jalen Hurts is a development. Uh, Isaiah Joe is kind of in the development for the Sixers.
Total.
Charlie Brown too. Even their developments. What Philadelphia really needs, especially the Phillies out of all the organizations, is they actually need ready players because there's a lot of players, especially our bullpen, which we talked about last week, who are not ready for the major leagues whatsoever. Who actually may never have even been ready for the major leagues. They just got lucky, and
Mhm.
that they think it's okay just to throw them in when you really actually you're not developing them. And I think that's an issue we see. Am I right, Dylan?
No, totally. I think that's what's so hard about the MLB and why I don't want to say the Phillies have had bad luck because they've made the picks. And Connor, I'd love to know what you think about this. But when you draft someone in the MLB, you hope that they can be here in 2 to 3 years, but it's still a crapshoot, right? 30% of the first
Yeah.
round makes it. It's just they're not, it's not the NBA or the NFL where they're going to even contribute right away. You would hope that they could contribute quicker. I think that's why we got Stott. That's why you drafted Hazley, these college guys who could come in, but it's a weird mix of planning for the future and then bargaining. What are we doing right now? What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I think the Phillies are draft wise in a little bit better spot since they brought in Brian Barber. I'm not
Mhm.
exactly sure what his role in the organization is. I think it's head of scouting, head of amateur scouting, or
What does he
something like
do?
that. I don't know what he does, but I know he was with the Yankees for a pretty long time, and I think he might have been involved with drafting Judge.
That's good.
I mean, pretty good player. But I like the draft that they just had.
Mhm.
Obviously Painter. I didn't even get to his MLB ETA. Either you guys have a guess on that? I don't think I
26.
got to it. 26,
24.
25,
Mm.
Ooh.
25. Not exactly a ringing endorsement of how he's gonna just shoot through our minor league system. Because it's our loaded system that we have. But no, I think if he can maybe make the change to a back end of the bullpen kind of guy, not even necessarily a closer, but even like a setup man, because
Mhm.
I don't know if he has the velocity right now. He definitely doesn't have the velocity. But like I said, as he puts on weight and gets stronger, and same with Abel too. I think Abel's a little bit more polished.
Mhm.
And like obviously these guys are like my age, so like
Weird.
Painter's 2 years younger than me, or a year. I don't exactly know, but it's like you said, their projects is really hard to predict where these guys are going to be and how they're going to end up. I just think that Abel is going to be a more of a reliable starter. And I like Painter's potential as a bullpen guy more than I like his potential as a starter. Um, but I guess moving on from those two, this guy still technically counts as a prospect, even though we all know he's going to play this year. That's Bryson Stott. He's graded overall at 55. His hit and run tool, his hit, arm, and run and field tool are all 55s. His power is 45, which is not really that big a deal as a shortstop. I mean, I don't think anyone's expecting him to come in and be Fernando Tatis and hit 45 homers and drive in 130 runs. I think I would love for him to take the starting shortstop job out of camp, but I mentioned it in my
Mhm.
article this week or last week that I think it's going to be Didi, and I think it's going to be Didi because the Phillies want to move on from him. He has to get he has to show something that he's just got to be better than last year. It's kind of hard to say or to put into words, but if you give him like a showcase month and he hits like 250 or 260 with a handful of home runs, walks a lot, plays better defense than he played last year, which is not exactly setting a high standard. Because I think Didi was like actually one of the worst,
It was
if not
really
the
bad.
worst, defensive shortstop at all last year. I don't know his fielding percentage off my head, but it's got to be like 930, which is atrocious. Because anything above, I consider 970 like league average, and like anything above that, pretty good to elite. But I think he was worse than Tatis last year fielding wise, and that's saying something because every time Tatis would make a highlight reel play or like a dive backwards and make a catch and turn a double play out of it, the next ball that would come his way would go like right between his legs. Austin, did you have something to
Yeah,
chime in
he
on?
has a minus 0.5 DWAR for last year.
Defensive WAR.
Defensive
Wow.
Yeah.
WAR.
Yeah, it was a minus 0.5, which was the worst of his career,
Wow.
actually. There was nothing worse. And there's another number in here that I didn't get a chance to check out. Oh, he had a 0.953 fielding percentage,
953. Man,
which is
that's
that's actually not that
It's
good.
sad to see because he used to be so elite as a defender and he
Oh.
couldn't hit. Like when he came into the league, I remember watching him and being fascinated. And then he turned into this power hitter and now he has no range and he flubs. I mean, you got it, Connor, whatever you want to say about it. It's just sad to me.
He was a goat.
and I know he had the elbow problems too.
Mhm.
And obviously that combined with the I think it's a kidney issue that he has, and
Yeah.
like that results in a lot of swelling going on in his elbow. I think it's time for the Phillies and for Didi too, probably to just move on. I don't know if anyone is going to really benefit from him staying here another year. I think he's set to make 15 mil this year. I don't exactly remember. I think the contract that he signed was 2 years, 30 mil. But going back to this showcase month that he needs to have, if the Phillies are going to trade him, they can't trade him based off the value that he has now because they'd be lucky to get a bucket of baseballs back for him at this point because no one's taking on the player and no one's taking on the salary. What's up, Austin?
So just to touch up on that, because I have all the stats up here. He signed a 2-year deal with 28 million, so almost 30 million.
So it's 14 mil.
14. That's ridiculous. Oh, that's insane.
Yeah, no one's going to take on that contract after the year you just had last year. How many games did you play last year? Do you have that?
Yeah, I'm checking that out. And sorry for almost interrupting, by the way.
Dude, just chime in whenever you want.
You know me. I just don't like it. But hold on.
Had to
I actually
be
can see it.
100.
Yeah, I was going to say, I
wanna
don't know if
say-
it's more than 100.
Duties appearances 2021 sort type. All right, his stats. Here we go. My computer's going so slow.
I know he hit like 215, something
Yeah,
like that.
I keep forgetting he's from the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
that's pretty. I don't know if it's crazy or cool, but baseball player from the Netherlands is pretty cool.
He had 368 at bats this season, which is honestly kind of small. He had 100 plate appearances this year. It seems
100 plate
games,
appearances,
which means
or
games.
100 games.
100. That means 100
games.
games.
There you go.
Yeah, 100 games.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just time to move on. I think we all know that by the beginning of the summer, hopefully Stott's definitely going to have the job. Like I said, I hope he wins it out of camp, or not camp, spring training, whatever they call it, if there's going to be one. But if they're also going to benefit from the service time or Stott's service time, keeping him down in the minors for a month or 2 months, they'll
Mhm.
probably end up in a grievance because that's what always happens. And it's probably not a good look for the team right after the CBA, but it's whatever. Because I think Stott does still have a little bit to work on. I think contact wise, he could be making a little bit more consistent contact. I think defensively too, maybe a little bit of work there. But I like with the Phillies, I don't know. They can end up playing him in center field. Like if Didi gets off to a really hot start and the Phillies decide to keep him, I mean like he would have to be batting like 350, just absolutely tearing the cover off the ball, and the Phillies aren't getting anything from whoever their center fielder is. Like maybe they do it like how they did it with Reese Hoskins. Remember when Reese played left field?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a fun time. They had Carlos Santana at third base. Bring Gabe Kapler back, NL manager of the year.
I miss
Um,
Gabe.
Me too, actually. He was my guy. He never got a fair shot here.
No,
But
clearly.
anyway, yeah, staying with the Stott talk. I think maybe if Didi gets off to a really good start and Stott also gets off to a hot start at the plate, they say, hey, go take 10 games in center in AAA. Doesn't matter if you go 0 for 45, 0 for 50. Just show that you can play average defense in center field, and you'll be up here in a week.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think about Bryson Stott maybe playing center field?
I think it's a good idea, and kind of I'm wondering if that's where he's going to transition to, center or left or third base, because look, I agree. I think if Stott's going to win the job, it's going to be out of camp. Now this puts the onus on camp actually starting, because when they don't have that spring training, I think that really hurts potentially Stott's development and their chance to really see him next to Didi every day. I think the concern about Stott is he's been hot and he's been making good contact. Hopefully the power will come. But I remember reading about it and they were saying, yeah, he's got great hands. He's got, a good arm, good reflexes, but his feet are slow. I'm like, well, you don't really want your shortstop to have slow feet. He's been training
Yeah,
that a
slow
lot.
feet don't eat, right?
Exactly. So I do wonder if he's not going to last at shortstop at the major league level and go center, go left field. I think that'd be a really good move.
Austin?
I completely agree with Dylan, and I'm not trying to just I like to give a bone because I think Dylan and I have the same mindset about everything, it seems, and I love it. It's pretty cool. But I think honestly, Bryson Scott sounds like the perfect outfielder. And weirdly
Stop.
enough, he does. He kind of does in a way. He kind of just, to me, like, if you want a guy with a good arm, you want a guy who has a good sense of the ball, but he also has to like have the speed for it. And with slow feet, that's nothing for a shortstop. Shortstop, you have to be quick, quick, quick. It's not like any of that other stuff that you can see in like other shortstops. Like Didi, he had quick feet. He didn't have what Bryson Scott had, like as his sorry, my stuttering. Didi, he was not very good when it came to the fielding, while Bryson Scott is, but Didi was faster. Didi, I actually think Didi was one of our, if I remember correctly, Didi was one of our fastest players last year. I think he was like the top 4, like for stealing. If I'm wrong.
I don't know. I thought you had the numbers in front of
Yeah,
you.
you're right.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see. Let me see. Most steals by Phillies. Most steals made
Because the
by.
Phillies steal bases a ton.
Yeah, and I
the base
remember
running
Didi,
is just
for some reason they have actually. Okay, let me see. I am so sorry for kind of like making this long. Didi's not coming up.
For the delay. It's all right now because we got unlimited time, right?
Oh yeah, thank God. And I'm not
Big
talking about.
boss.
We're not talking about the what, the plunk company of no name.
Yeah. No free ads.
Exactly.
But
I can't figure it out.
while
I
you're
can't
looking
figure
that
it out.
up, I'll move on to my fourth prospect, and it's I don't exactly know how to pronounce this guy's name, but we got him in the Spencer Howard deal. I don't know if it's Hans or Hans.
Hence,
What do you guys
Mo-
think? Hans?
Hans.
And then is
Did
it
you go full
Cruz?
German with it?
Cruz?
I think it's
Cruz?
Kraus.
Kraus?
I thought it was
Well,
Hans
whatever the hell this
Kraus, but
guy's
whatever his
name is,
name is.
he's got no picture on MLB.com.
He's
Thanks,
weird looking.
lockout. Yeah, thanks, owners. 6'4", 180, built like my index finger. Second round pick by the Rangers back in 2022. He's got a 65 grade on his fastball, 65 on the slider, curveball's 55, and then changeup control, and overall he's graded 50. But if I know I talked about Painter being a closer, but this dude could be an absolute weapon out of the bullpen. If Serenity doesn't work out, I would love to see this dude in the bullpen. I'm just gonna call him HC because I don't know how to say his name. But I know he made one start. I think it was only one start back at
Mhm.
might have been the last game of the year actually. But I know in his first 3 pro seasons he only pitched 160, just over 162 innings. He had elbow issues, and then sat out the 2020 seasons for personal reasons. And then this is obviously before the Ian Kennedy, Kyle Gibson, Spencer Howard trade, which I definitely think the Phillies won, by the way, because Spencer Howard is still 95 in the first, 85 in the third. But it says here that, I'm reading this on MLB.com, by the way. He sits 92 to 97, which is kind of a big range. But he can get up to 99. His slider's mid 80s. And it goes 2 ways. It can go north-south or it can go east-west, which is pretty cool. So I don't know. It could be considered a curveball. Sometimes it could be considered a slider. I guess that's why it's a 65 grade on it. But you didn't use it as much in 2019 because I mentioned how he had a bit of elbow problems, but I guess that could be traced back to the slider curveball thing or whatever. I'm just gonna call it a slurve because no one else has that pitch. Make just another thing about him that makes him unique, But no, he definitely could be a weapon out of the bullpen. I do expect to see him more. If Zach Eflin isn't ready to go by the time the season rolls around, I think we could see him in the rotation. And I'd be excited to get a pretty good look at him. Even if Eflin is ready to go, we still have no one in the bullpen aside from Corey Knebel. Spending a lot of 13 million on it, I think is what it was, 12 or 13 mil.
10 mil, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But what do you guys think about this guy? I think he just fits Philly perfectly. I know I don't remember for sure what he looked like, but I'm pretty sure he had like a pretty wild stash, and I don't know. I just think I think he's a Philly guy all the way. How about you guys?
I agree. I think he's a total Philly guy, and I like the take. I think he could be a interesting piece out of the bullpen. Out of all of the kind of rookie fill-in bullpen guys we saw, it's like Cam Bedrosian, guys like that. I thought Kraus has the most upside, and maybe he could totally stick. And he's got that plus fastball. He's very strange. I remember seeing him. His neck's all yadded up. He's got the handlebar mustache.
He's got a bit of a weird delivery too, right?
Wonky, like kind of 3/4-ish delivery. Yeah, a little like hitch in there. I mean, why not?
Maybe a Chris Sale.
Yes, totally. That's exactly it. I agree. I think it could be a good, like, take a flyer on this guy on the pen. You know, you don't have anyone else out there. And if he needs to open games for you, have him open games.
Yeah, just see how long he can last as an opener. Maybe he gets through 3 or 4 innings, and I mean that's better than Matt Moore and Vince Velasquez, right? Not much to lose there. Austin.
Yeah, so I was searching up on the baseballreference.com and they were talking about him actually with his projections for this upcoming year. And they're actually, in my opinion, they're giving him a very big ceiling for a 23-year-old pitcher. They're saying that this year he's going to be projected to have 3 wins, 4 losses with a 4.08 ERA. Now, it doesn't sound that great, but if you think about
Is
it,
that all games started, or is that
that's
some
I
relief
don't I think
appearances?
that's just everything pitching because you really don't know what he's going to be doing. But I bet you he's going to be like, I bet you like you could say one of these games are like one of these 3 games are all like starting, and then the rest when Eflin comes back is regular relief pitching. But I'll tell you what, this guy's going to be good. When I first saw him, I thought he was a Levittown guy. He looked like a Levittown man. Levittown, Pennsylvania. God bless. That's the area I'm from. He legit. I was like, this guy's beautiful. This is the most beautiful Philadelphia
He's a
I've ever met.
unicorn.
He's the guy that you see at the Eagles tailgates, like flipping some dogs and screaming, "Go Birds!" like that, and like when he's drinking a beer and stuff with a cig in his mouth, like he's that kind of guy. Like he's that perfect Philadelphia persona, and I think that
He's
that
he's
was
the Phillies Gardner Minshew.
he is, bro. He is. He's perfect, bro. He is so perfect for the role of Phil. I bet you he's going to be a fan favorite, and like you can come back to that
I
too.
think he already is.
Yeah.
When I saw him like in the trade, because I had like the one day when I was at my family friend's house for house sitting for 3 weeks, I watched the whole
yeah.
MLB trade deadline. And when I saw his face, I was like, this guy's good. This guy's special. I wasn't even
He's a
I,
beaut.
I wasn't even excited about Gibson at the time. I was excited about Hans. I really was. I thought Hans was going to be the guy. I just feel it. But we could call him Michael because he's Hans Michael. That's his real name. Hans Michael Cruz.
His real name is Michael, and he goes by Hans.
I guess. I don't know. It's weird how it goes up.
That's a pretty boss move.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he's actually younger than me, which is crazier. He's like a couple months younger. That's kind of crazy.
I know. It's like, because obviously I'm younger than you guys, but it's like seeing guys that are younger than me go play in NHL or go play in the NBA. It's like, what am I doing with my life?
Oh, it's the worst feeling.
I know. I'm like, this guy's he's 3 months younger than me, and he's averaging 12 points an NBA game.
It's like that's a grown man right there. Like, what
doesn't make you feel good about yourself.
No.
Making millions of dollars too. I'm sitting here on my college income.
To be honest, bro, like that's me with Jalen Hurts because Jalen Hurts is the exact same age. I just think even you too, Dylan, you're 23. He's the exact same age as us, and he's the starting quarterback for an NFL football team with already a national championship under his belt, County, Alabama. That to me,
Yeah,
was the
played Tom
creepiest.
Brady on Sunday too.
Yeah, that is true. He actually
Welcome
did
to the
play.
playoffs.
He did play Tom Brady at a 23-year-old. I don't think people realize that, but I think like this is potential. Like seeing that he has even a win with a winning percentage of 4.429. That's ridiculous. I think that's ridiculous for a pitcher that's not even really pitching, who's not really known in the Phillies organization like that, like or in MLB as a whole. I think he is the guy that can actually help our bullpen out a lot this year. And we've been focusing on bullpen, if you ask me, especially just one. That Kluber pick was the best. No. Knebel.
Oh, there you go.
My God, my free. Ugh.
Anyway, last guy that I have ranked, I have Johan Rojas. And not necessarily because of what he's proven so far, but more potential. He's playing, I think he's in Double-A right now. He's MLB ETA 2023. Did I say he's only 21? I don't know. Sorry, I blacked out while I was reading that. 50 hit tool, 50 power, 60 run, 55 arm, 55 field, overall 50. But I've seen tweets, source, trust me, bro. But I've seen tweets where this guy has been compared to Acuna and Mookie Betts and like Juan Soto. I mean, pretty good ceiling, right? But he hit 320 in the Dominican League in 2018. He is one of the he was signed actually today 4 years ago during international signing period. I think he's from, where is he from? He might be from the Dominican actually. But
Yeah, Dominican,
he's definitely a future center fielder in my opinion. If he gets here by 2023, I don't know of anyone else who would be threatening enough to take the center fielder of the future position or role. I mean, maybe Moniak if he breaks out this year and gives the Phillies no other choice. By the way, I don't even think Moniak's ranked on here. Let me
Really?
check that out. No. Oh no, he's ranked 17th.
Oh,
Mickey Moniak, 17th.
really?
Yeah. He doesn't have a picture either because he's already been to the show. But Mickey Moniak's down to a 45 overall grade. Not great.
Not great.
You see, I have friends who are really highly into Mickey Moniak and think he's like the GOAT. Like he's getting a Mickey Moniak jersey even.
Oh, nice.
I said like
He doesn't
okay,
even have a number.
I know he's,
Oh, you're gonna.
what was his number this year?
I don't know, probably like 80 something.
Yeah, I think he's gonna probably get something like that and stuff. But to go
He got a
back,
hockey number.
Seriously.
wait, was that really what was his number? I gotta check that now too. But
I
I
know he
actually
Oh, it was
16 when he came
switched
up.
with like Hazley. I think they both had like hockey numbers and they wore it for like each other because they're friends or something like that.
oh, okay. So just to go back about the Johan Roas, he's actually right now. It's weird. I don't know what this is about, but like outfielder Johan Roas was assigned to the Phillies organization September 30th of 2021. But
I
like
think they added him, to the 40-man, I'm guessing, because if
Yeah,
they can
probably to
do that
protect him.
to
from the
protect him
Rule
from the Rule
5.
5 draft.
oh,
Exactly,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's also weird because they also had him in the Jersey Shore Blue Calls instead of, which is like the so like if you guys remember, there's two
It's-
double tinglers.
Yeah.
And so
It's
he went down.
interesting, not to cut you off, but he
No.
went down, but I think he went through 3 minor league teams this year alone. So he went like Florida, spring league to low A to high A. And it said, I just looked at his stats, Connor and Austin, not to cut you guys off, but it said he hit, 17 games at high A, 334 batting average, 74 plate appearances.
Yeah, this guy, I think he's
It's
gonna
like,
rise
that's legit.
quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's legit. And he's 21
So-
now. So like he's gonna go.
His average
And he's obviously gonna get better with age too.
Mhm.
The dude, he doesn't strike out a lot. He also doesn't draw many walks, which is something that the Phillies front office probably hates about him because the Phillies are all about drawing walks and hitting 50 home runs a year. But no, I think his power grade is actually pretty underrated. But that again, that's going to come with adding strength. He only weighs 165 pounds. I mean, imagine what he's going to be like. He's like Cesar Hernandez. Back when Cesar was like 160, he was hitting 7 or 8 home runs a year. Then he came in, he bulked up to like 180. The next year hit 15 or 16 home runs. So if he can add like 10 pounds of muscle every offseason until he gets up to around like 190, 195, like we're looking at a really good two-way player who can steal bases. He'll play really good defense in center field, and a guy that's probably going to hit for a really good average, like maybe 280, 290, and potentially hit 20 to 25 home runs. That's why based off current ability, I don't have him or I only have him at 5, but I think his ceiling is probably the highest of any Phillies prospects in the organization. And that's counting Stott and Moniak and Abel and Painter and everyone else that I have above him. I just think that if he can start getting himself into better counts and better at bats, then like we have a guy who's going to be a 280, 380, and then whatever he slugs, going to steal probably 20 bases. Basically, not an Acuna, but our version of Acuna, which is really exciting. What do you guys think?
He has an average for the minor league baseball of 280. As a 21-year-old, he has a minor league average.
Across his career, yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. Like that is actually absurd to me.
He signed
Like-
4 years ago too, so if he's just 21 now, yeah.
It's the
4 years ago today.
traditional, right, like international signing. You sign a kid at like 16, 17. They spend 7 years in the minors and it's nothing because, you know what I mean?
I feel
Yeah,
like
look at
this
Jalen Ortiz.
Exactly.
Guy, how old is he now?
David Ortiz. I'll search it up.
No, Jalen Ortiz.
Oh, Jalen.
Jalen Ortiz, he's been signed in 2015. So he's going into his 8th year in the system, 7th or 8th year in the system, 23 years old.
Yeah, he's 23.
Which it sounds crazy because we've been hearing about him for
A while.
6 or 7 years. Back when like Reese Hoskins was in AAA, him and Dylan Cousins
Mhm.
just tearing the cover off the ball, hitting 40 home runs. Like he was that third guy that we kind of forgot about recently, but he had a really, really good year last year.
He did.
Let me check out his numbers. 2021, he got up to Reading last year. What did he bat? In Reading, he only hit 208, but he only played 21 games. But in high A, he hit 262 with 19 homers, 48 RBIs. Walked 29 times, which is pretty good for a guy that doesn't really walk much. He got on base at a 358 clip, which is pretty acceptable for a guy who doesn't walk much. He slugged 521, which is pretty good too. And he tied his career high in home runs in how many games did he play? In 41 less games. In 2019 in Clearwater, he hit 19 home runs. And then what's JS? What team would that be?
Cheers.
Would that be one of like the rookie?
High
like,
A.
it's high A. Oh, Jersey Shore, high A.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore, he had 19 home runs in 74 games. And then got the call up to Reading. So I would expect him to start in Reading next year. I do think he'll have a little bit more success. I think we could see him in AAA by the end of the year. And then maybe if he pops off there, maybe we could see him a little bit in September for 40 man. But I think he's another guy that he fell off a little bit, but now he's back on the map. Still rated 10th in the system. I think 10th in the system. Says he played in the MLB last year, but I don't remember that. I'm not sure if that's correct. But another guy that we should definitely get excited about, because I think he can come back and maybe not start right away, but be a pretty good power bat off the bench. Maybe close to what Nick Williams was back when he was the Phillies' best bat off the bench. What do you guys think about Mr. Jalen Ortiz?
I
If
think
you
it's
have anything.
weird. I remember, like you said, hearing about him in like 2015, 2016 at Williamsport. I'm like reading about him in the paper and then just forgetting about him. look, it's another one of those guys that hopefully will be here for us in like, the current core, but you can still look ahead to the Painter A-Ball days and maybe he'll be there and he'll be a solid piece along with Rojas.
You could also be
think it's a-
using a trade too.
Totally. Good trade chip. Great point. At the deadline, maybe you package him with DD and you can get something decent out of it.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm looking at his team stats and he has a lot of potential. He's been like it's going back 2015 that they signed him to that minor league contract, and he's been playing at Lakewood when he was 18. That's insane. He was playing at Lakewood at 18. He has potential, and a lot of teams, like even going back to what Dylan said, a lot of
Yeah,
teams
it's
will
like
love
putting a
that.
high school senior in pro
Mhm.
ball. You don't expect them to have success right away. And then
No.
when they do, it's like their name's plastered everywhere. And then when they start to struggle a little bit, everyone gets down on them. But it's like you're still only 23. You still got maybe not plenty of time, but he's gonna play in double A, definitely double A next year, probably triple A as well. And like I said, maybe even get to the majors. Who knows? You guys want to move on from prospects now, unless you have anything to add?
Sure. Austin, are you good to move on?
I'm so good to move on, and I want to thank Connor for those amazing prospects coming up. I'm actually really shocked at how good we actually have some as with the prospects. I really thought it was a lot worse, but some of these guys actually sound ridiculous and more you look in depth. But then that's what this
It's kind
podcast
of
is
like the
about.
team. It's really top heavy. Like you're
Mhm.
banking on the development of teenagers, more or less. With
Exactly.
your two top arms. Like if one flames out, like you got to hit on the other one, or
You
else,
got to hit.
yeah, like you've wasted 4 years of development, and not to mention, like you sign these guys to multi-million-dollar deals. Let me check their signing bonus. Not sure if it's listed on here, but
No, exactly. I see it.
um,
It's like it's ridiculous. Like these, I think the
yeah,
Ortiz.
you're developing or you're banking on like teenagers to grow into future stars, and it's going to take them a long time to get there.
Oh
Um,
my God, they 4 million, a signing bonus of 4 million
is
for
that Abel or
Ortiz.
Painter?
No, Ortiz.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Man, it makes sense though.
yeah,
This
I remember him being one of the more sought after prospects, and like at the time, the Phillies still had Freddie Galvis and Cesar Hernandez, like two guys that were international signing period studs. And I think I'm not sure if Odubel was on the team yet, but back then, like Odubel was an all-star at one point, and he's obviously not that player anymore. And I'm not endorsing him at all of any kind. But he did have that 1 year where like the dude was maybe our best player. I mean that team, like I think Jeremy Hellickson was also our ace that year, which isn't saying much about the team. But I mean, you see, actually no, because Odubel was a Rule 5 pick, so completely disregard everything that I said.
it
No, but I
happens.
think it's pertinent, Connor, especially because we just signed, like the big news this past weekend, we signed William Bergoya Jr. from out of Venezuela. Apparently he's super sought after. We'll see him in 6 years, hopefully. Shortstop, Romel Mendez
Yeah,
out of
like you're
Venezuela.
signing these guys to not see him until like 2028, 2029.
Seriously. We won't see that guy for 6 years. And that's okay.
Like Bryson Stott probably still won't even be on the team by then.
Mm-mm.
It's ridiculous. But I will say that was a really good talk between us. And I think there's a lot more that we can even talk about today because Dylan, you're up to bat with the Hoskins, correct?
Sure, yeah, I'll get into it. I guess the way I'd phrase it is the Reese Hoskins dilemma, and it's only a dilemma because of who he is and what he's like and how he fits into the lineup. So Reese Hoskins from 2019, when he led the league in walks, to now has really just drastically changed as a hitter. So you look at the slash line from 2021 until it was cut short, 247, 331, 530, 27 homers, 71 RBIs, 20 more RBIs than the average major leaguer with that many plate appearances. But from 2019 to 21, he's basically what he's done is he's traded walks for homers and traded on base percentage for slugging percentage. So 2019 to 2021, his OBP has dropped 30 points and his walk rate has lessened. It went from 16.5 to 10.6. He's also taken less strikes and he's swinging at more pitches and taking less than 3-0 counts. But his slugging was 530 and it's only gone up these past 3 years and it was 11th the most in the NL. I think I said that. And then his from 2019 to 2021, basically all his numbers are getting better. So his offensive WAR is up, his runs batting is up, his adjusted runs batting are up. And it's interesting because he used to be this guy who, while he still takes a lot of pitches, he was hunting walks. And I think the best Rhys Hoskins we've seen is a version of this past year in which he hunts homers and he is aggressive and he's decisive instead of taking pitches down the middle and hunting walks, because in reality, his value isn't on the base paths. He is like -1 runs created on the base paths. He's slow. He doesn't add anything there. His value is driving and runs and attacking pitches. So like when he swung at the first pitch, for example, in 2021 more than ever. And when he did, he put up his best numbers. He had 278, 310, 611 with 10 homers, 19 RBIs. But what's unfortunate is that the majority of his plate appearances, 163, came in the 2-hole. And this newfound approach from Rhys didn't really fit with sitting in the 2-hole, right? So when he hits second and he's swinging more and he's taking less and he's walking less, it's not really like a good OBP thing. When he hit second, he hit 209 and his OBP dropped to 258. But when he hit for say fourth, he hit 250, 348, 447, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs. Fifth, same kind of thing. 318, 471, 712, 5 RBIs, 5 home runs, 18 RBIs. And what the real kicker is that, I don't want to just ramble too much, but he sucked in the 2-hole, right? He did not do well in the 2-hole because he was not a hitter designed to hit second. And the Phillies in the first and second, from 1 to 2, they had like a league lowest or second lowest OBP. So a big issue with the Phillies is that we're not getting guys on. And Rhys Hoskins isn't the type of dude to get on, right? He's not gonna walk like that anymore, and it's not really worth him walking. And when he hits well, we win. When he doesn't hit well, it's in 55, 52 in the games he's played. But when he hasn't hit well, we've lost. It's pretty simple. So I guess what the concern and what my questions are for you guys is going into free agency, they say we need a center fielder and a left fielder, and that left fielder is likely to be a middle of the order power bat. I think the Phillies want him to stay in that 2-hole position, because what are you going to do if you have, say you have Realmuto, Harper, Castellanos, or Schwarber? Where does Rhys Hoskins fit into that? I just don't think he's that kind of hitter anymore. And I think it puts pressure on the Phillies to get a center fielder that can really carry the top of the lineup, or insert someone like Bryson Stott or if Alec Bohm can have a resurgence in the top of the lineup. And I think it's kind of interesting. What do you guys think?
Yeah. So this goes back to what I wrote in my article about predicting the Phillies lineup. Rhys Hoskins, I forget exactly how I phrased it, but I do need to see more from him.
Mhm.
Going back to what you were saying about free agency, I do think that instead of bringing in a power bat, like again, someone like Jorge Soler, who
Mhm.
I'm probably one of the biggest fans of bringing him in, I would love to see him here. He is a power bat, but in my opinion, he's a better leadoff hitter than he is middle of the order hitter. And like part of Rhys Hoskins walking more and just being overall more productive in the 4-hole is also because he's batting behind Bryce Harper. He's not getting as many good pitches to see. It's leading to more pitches out of the strike zone, obviously, because pitchers want him to swing more, or swing and miss more. They don't want him to swing more. But again, going back to your point about the Phillies not getting runners on base, Bryce Harper had the MVP. Bryce Harper had like 17 or 18 solo home runs before he hit
Mhm.
uh
He had like
like
84 RBIs.
yeah,
That's
it's
nothing.
something like if half of those home runs were even 2-run home runs, we're looking at Bryce 100 RBIs. That's like 20 more runs added to the Phillies total on the year. So again, or even Kyle Schwarber, if you do want to go the more expensive route, he could hit top of the order as well. Left fielder. I don't know if they're gonna find a free agent that is going to set the table per se as a center fielder. Maybe you swing a trade for one. Kevin Kiermaier, maybe. Cedric Mullins, maybe. I don't know if he's a center fielder. He might be a left fielder or a right fielder. I mean, Andrew McCutchen's still out there. I don't know if either of you guys are interested in bringing him back.
Please
I would
don't
bring him
know.
back and have him as a bat off the bench. So I missed what you said there, Dylan.
No, I hate Andrew McCutchen, but you're entitled to.
You
your
hate
opinion.
Andrew McCutchen?
I hate Andrew McCutchen. I'm sorry. I loved him. I loved him
Wow.
when he played for the Pirates. I do not like Andrew McCutchen on the Phillies. I think he is
Wow.
over the hill.
You think he's just cooked, like he's burnt out?
Yeah.
The ACL did it.
He can't move anymore. Like, you can't play outfield.
Yeah, you're pretty much right. His defense has gone way downhill.
I will say
What's up,
though,
Austin?
I will say I did actually like his hitting this year. I didn't think it was as bad. Do I
McCutchen?
think? Yeah,
He had hot streaks. Yeah.
He did. Do I think that he was gonna have another year with the Phillies? No, like this was only gonna be a 3 years deal. So with vets like him, it was only gonna be 3. Was I sad that we couldn't go to the playoffs with him? Yeah, I thought he deserved another playoff run, like how he had with the Pirates. And I personally think he's gonna go back to Pittsburgh because I really think he's actually gonna become a coach out there. I just have a weird feeling about him being a coach and stuff. But I think you're completely right about the like having an issue with the left fielders because now not only are we missing like we have only Harper really right now, if I remember correctly, because like our outfielders are kind of like hit bad, and like we're gonna like Bryson Scott would be perfect. I would say get Soler. I really think Soler is actually a great player to get. I started really liking Soler when I was watching the Braves in a weird like way because I was like, man, this guy's so good, but I don't want to root for him because he's this a Brave, like I hate that. But like when even like one of my favorite players is what's his freaking name? Max Scherzer. And don't know if I can even like him
Bulldog.
anymore. Yeah, I don't know if I can even like him now because he's a Met. When he was a National, it didn't really matter, but when he was a Met, that rubbed me the wrong way. And I think like you're completely right. Like Hoskins, he's not a 2-hitter. He's not a 2-hitter at all. He honestly might be better in the 5. And the reason why I
I
say
think
the
he's like a
5,
5-hole hitter. I
he
completely
is.
agree.
Like I think he's the perfect like medium balance. And I'm not trying to say that even as a bad way. I think like here's my thinking. You had the 2 to get on base. Then you have Harper to come up to get them in. Number 4 needs to be like 1 and 2. But number 5 has to be like Harper. And I think he's perfect for that. He's kind of like Harper getting the power hitting. He's the perfect 5 for that. In my opinion, the 4 should never be a power hitter. The 4 should always
don't
be an
think so?
on-field. It's weird. It sounds stupid.
I mean, the Braves hit Ozzy Albies 4th for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do, but
I could check.
It's
yeah.
interesting. Sorry not to cut you off, because I think a few years ago, there was this train of thought that your best hitter should hit second. Like Joey Votto was hitting second a lot for the Reds. And I can see where people would think, because you get the most at bats, apparently, when you hit second, like where Bryce would hit second. But like you said, Connor, I think Bryce needs to be there to bring in runs. Do you guys have anyone else on the team currently that you think could hit second? Like, do you guys think JT could, or what are your
yeah,
thoughts?
maybe JT. Maybe Gene Segura. Other than that, not really, because you do want a guy who can get on base, and like neither JT or Segura walk a lot.
Yeah.
Their main way of getting on base is by putting the ball in play. JT, I would say he's more of a power hitter than a contact hitter, but I think he does have a pretty good balance between the two. You're always going to get like 275, 20 homers from him. Maybe like a 320, 330 OBP. I'd actually be interested to see what happens if they batted JT leadoff because he did it for the Marlins a little bit. I know that. It's obviously been a minute since he's played in Miami, but I mean, if you still don't have a leadoff hitter by the time camp rolls around or spring training, sorry, it can be Segura, it could be JT. I think JT actually might have hit leadoff a handful of times.
I think he did
Um,
hit lead off a handful of times this year. Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember exactly how he did off the top of my head. If his numbers aren't good, it's probably because he only played a few games. But again, if his numbers are like if he batted 700 from the leadoff spot, he only played like 4 games
Yeah.
there. And that's going to be the thing with the DH too. Assuming that comes, you can go out and find anyone that walks a lot and makes pretty decent contact. Say, hey, come bat leadoff for us.
I think to your point, JT was a bit of a disappointment offensively last year. Like it wasn't bad, but there was the hand injury, with the thumb, I think, out of spring training. And then the wrist had been giving him pain when he missed that block in like April or something. And it wasn't quite as good as 2020 or 2019. And I just think that I'm hoping that there's another gear. I know there's another gear for JT because he was never really on. And when he's on and when his timing is right, I think it's a very scary, dangerous thing. He can really hit for power, but he's got that high average and it's a lot of line drives out of him. I'm wondering if the new hitting coach will have any kind of input on that and any kind of input on like Baum. Now, I'm not saying that Baum, if improved, could hit second, right? Because Baum in his best year hit like eighth and he got just, meat thrown to him. It's not like
With
he
the
was hitting
DH
first.
too.
With the DH, exactly. So like, I'm not saying Baum can do that, but I definitely think there's another gear to JT. Whether we see it or not, remains a question.
Yeah, I can agree with you. JT was actually, I thought it was a down year for JT personally. It was like, I watch the games with my dad all the time, and he's like the guy, like when he doesn't like a player, he's hardcore vocal. He did not like Andrew McCutchen, Reese Hoskins, and JT Realmuto last year. He hated them all last year.
That's like the entire payroll.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He just, and I agreed with my dad. Like JT, like when you needed a hit, like he did have those hits. Like I think it was I think the biggest play of the whole year was that Nationals game, if I'm right. He was the one with the Nationals and stuff.
When we came back.
Yeah,
and
when he
had that
came
big
back.
rally.
Yeah, it was him,
Yeah,
right?
that was a crazy game.
Yeah, that was his best play of the whole year, I thought. And he really did well. He kind of was better at the later half, but the beginning of the year, he was pitiful. He was like you would see the grounders, and I would be like, oh my God,
Mhm.
this is ridiculous.
What else do we have on the dock here?
So is that all you got, Dylan, for right now?
I think that's all I have, unless you guys have more things to talk about.
I could talk about one little thing. I could talk
Yeah,
about
let's do it.
the MLB lockout that's happening, and I'll kind of go quick. So I'm on SB Nation right now, which kind of like explains the whole scenarios of the whole issue. And the biggest issue that actually I didn't know about until now was the player side of everything. I didn't know that the players had an issue with the tanking in baseball, which
Mhm.
sounds weird, but that is the second biggest problem MLB players have right now with this lockout is the issue with tanking. Now it's going off against with the Baltimore Orioles, who have been benefiting from the league's revenue sharing and they've been terrible. They've been pity. Like you can't
They've
even
been
pay me to
awful.
watch, and
Mhm.
yet they're getting about $100 million less than the 14 other teams with a roster worth 42 million only. Their whole team
So
is
maybe
only
not
42 million.
maybe not tanking, but spending.
Yeah.
I guess.
So the problem is that they're a mid baseball club who can afford these players, and they're not at all. They're only spending 42 million of a whole season. So now what players are trying to say is we don't like this tanking stuff anymore because
Yeah.
it's ruining the game. And I gotta agree with them. I like the tanking when it was the Sixers, when it was about draft stock. But in baseball, it's kind of different. In baseball, it's like you can't have a team really that bad because like it's hard. Like as we looking at the Phillies, it's hard to build a farm system. And I want to know what you guys think about what ways can be
Yeah.
done to fix tanking in baseball.
I saw a really interesting thing in the Athletic a few weeks ago about this and about tanking, because yeah, tanking like the Orioles, you're not really trying to win games, and it's about building through the draft. And like you're gonna get the best draft picks. You know, it's pretty straight up. Like the NFL, the worse you are, the better the picks you get. And it was something basically around the lines of you should be rewarded for being competitive, and the teams that almost make it should get the higher picks. So it was
That's
teams
it.
like the Phillies had like the 4th or 5th overall pick because they tried, right? Like they almost made it. And then whoever, you know, the Padres were up there. And teams that you have to try to get high picks, you're not going to be rewarded for just sucking, because it's worse than all of baseball, because I think it's the slowest moving out of any franchise to dig itself out of a hole. Look at Charlotte Hornets in the NBA. They've been awful. In the past 2 years, they've flip-flopped. Cavaliers. Spurs still aren't good, but
Sixers.
you know what I'm saying? The Sixers, exactly. The Bulls. Like you can write yourselves. The Eagles, they weren't supposed to contend, and they have.
Also overachieved, but
Overachieved, exactly. But like it doesn't change quickly in baseball, and I agree. You have to do something to try and remain competitive, especially when you're playing 162 games.
that's
I
where
agree.
not to cut anyone off, but just to jump in quickly. I do think that's where having maybe not a salary cap, but a salary floor
Mhm.
would definitely benefit the league. Maybe say you can't spend under, I don't know what it would be in baseball, but I know in hockey you can't spend under like 60 mil, and the cap is like either 81 or 82 and a half mil. So if the luxury cap is what, 216 or 220, something like that,
25, I think. Yeah.
225. Yeah. So maybe you put the floor at 90 mil, 100 mil. Is that a fair number?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it makes teams go out and want to be competitive. And going back to what you said about like maybe teams on the postseason bubble that get eliminated on the last day of the season, like they get the higher picks. Like Toronto won like 93, 94 games
Yeah.
and got eliminated on the last day of the season. Like instead of them picking 15 or 16, like give them the number one pick.
Seriously, they tried.
Give the Mariners, like they have made the playoffs in like 20 years or something like that. Like give them the number 2 pick. They got eliminated on the last day of the season as well, which was also that following that story was really fun to follow. Because I think of the trade deadline. Remember they traded their
Mhm. Their GM
closer
kind of
at the
screwed them.
deadline. Yeah, and the players were like freaking out at the front office, and then they only lost like 30 games the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Like give them a good pick. Don't give the Orioles and the Pirates and whoever like bad teams. They stay bad because they draft bad. The Phillies have been a middle of the road team because they went out and signed Bryce Harper. They traded for JT.
Exactly.
Aaron Nola developed really well initially. They went out and traded, or not traded, but they signed Zach Wheeler. Like the ceiling is getting higher, but the floor is also getting lower.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. That's where the boomer bust that we talked about a lot last week comes into play. Like just instead of giving the teams like the Orioles and Pirates first and second pick, because they never hit on their draft picks.
No.
Can you guys name either like any
mean,
household name player on either team?
I mean, I know their biggest prospect, I think the Orioles, is Adley Rutschman, that catcher out of Oregon State. I think he's
But they
approaching
drafted
triple or
number
double
one
A.
like 3 years
Like,
ago.
yeah, and he hasn't seen the league. He's
Yeah.
a college kid.
Right. And that's like all they have.
That's all
I
they
can't
have.
really name.
Yeah.
I know they got that one guy
That's
in
it.
the I know they got the one prospect in the Machado deal from the Dodgers. I think I forget his
That was a
name.
while ago, though.
That was a while ago.
It was like 4 years
I
ago.
like I don't think he's seen the majors yet either. Um, Pittsburgh just traded, not just traded away, but they got rid of Josh Bell. Um, they're, I think they traded. Did they trade Marte?
Marte signed, I think Marte signed with the Mets. Starling?
Oh yeah, shit. That's right.
That was awful, but
Yeah, like they
yeah,
just let him walk.
they let him walk.
Like that, not even
Yeah,
package him in a deal for anything. Even if you're gonna get a rental and a team's like 13th best prospect back, like they're 13th best. If you trade him to the Yankees 13th best prospect probably immediately becomes like your 7th prospect because your farm system is nowhere because you traded them all to get Chris Archer,
mhm.
who's now back with the Rays.
Is he?
Ironically, I know he signed back there. I don't know if he's still there. Um, but I like those teams. They're like the Phillies. They don't hit on their draft picks, and they're consistently bad. They're losing 120 games a year, and it's really bad for the sport. And those are just my thoughts on it. I feel pretty confident in saying that you guys will agree with me, Austin.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on everything. I actually think a salary floor is a great idea. I was kind of thinking about it before, like ways to use accept without having to get rid of the luxury tax and such. Because I don't like the ceilings in baseball. I think baseball you can buy your players, but I think the problem really was the bottom part. I really like I that was the perfect way of going about it because honestly, if even talking about the issue with baseball today, if you just had a freaking like person trying to compete in baseball, there might be more people viewing it as a whole. And I think like the Orioles are bad for baseball. The Pirates are bad for baseball. They're both teams who have no um motivation or commitment to go ahead to
Yeah,
the
they had
next
no
level.
motivation to spend.
Exactly.
Look
And
at
I
the
think that's
there's
Nationals.
ridiculous.
teams,
Yeah,
yeah, the Nationals.
traded their whole roster.
Exactly. And I think the Mariners, that was actually the worst. That the Mariners, they at least tried, they at least thought it was a good idea, which is kind of scary to me if I was a Mariners fan. Like you really thought that was a good idea. But, but in all honesty, like I think it's bad for baseball. And like I hope it gets fixed. Like I hope we look at a way when this lockout ends that we see baseball end up changing as a whole, where like teams can finally compete with one another without knowing, oh, it's an easy win. Because I think easy wins are bad for baseball, really bad.
I
And
agree. Oh, sorry, Connor.
yeah, just really quick, not to cut you off, but there's
No.
teams, there's like there's poor teams that don't spend. They're still really good, like Tampa Bay.
Mhm, mhm.
They're really good. The only exception I can think of is the Wander Franco contract, and he's only about 3 years away for getting traded to LA.
Yeah.
Realistically,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but and then there's teams like the A's too. Like we've all, I think, have both of you guys seen Moneyball?
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, fantastic movie. It basically tells a story about how you don't need to spend trillions of dollars to make your team competitive. Um, and then you have teams like the Angels who are going out and like the Angels, I don't think have signed a single hitter this offseason, but they brought in like 40 or 50 new pitchers to their organization.
Mhm.
Like they're trying to, it's probably not going to work out, but they're giving effort. They're trying to improve their team. They're spending money. And like
Yeah.
there is ways to avoid having to spend money while still being good, but the Orioles aren't doing either. And not to call out the Orioles specifically, like the Tigers until before they signed Javi Baez, they didn't spend a lot of money. The Braves don't spend a ton of money. They locked up Acuna and Albies quickly so that they didn't have to spend a ton of money, which is smart. But I like it teams like LA and Boston and both New York teams, they're going out and spending a
Mhm.
bunch of money and they're all competitive. It's like it's not really there's no trick to it. Like the more you put in, the more you're gonna get out. I guess. But anyway, I'm done rambling now.
No, I like what you're saying. I agree because this is interesting dichotomy too. How do you make it competitive for smaller market teams, right? Because you have to spend to be good. And the best teams, pretty much besides the Rays and maybe the A's whenever they resuscitate, are the teams that spend. And the Braves haven't spent a lot, but they're just smart and they're just a really good, damn good
Yeah, they
organization.
hit on their draft picks.
Exactly.
Exactly.
They do really well when it comes to all like the data and research. I applaud the
Totally.
Rays for that.
Totally. And I think though, like, so look at the Texas Rangers, a 90-loss team, devoted 500 million this offseason to Corey Seager and why am I
Simeon.
blanking on his name?
Marcus Simeon.
Exactly. And they willingly went to this crappy franchise because they paid them out. And because they're what, Texas Rangers, they're in Arlington or Dallas, they can afford to shell out that kind of money and they're willing. So I think you have to put in some kind of floor so that you have to at least try and spend the money because it's not going to turn around through the draft. I mean, you just have no incentive to go to a smaller market team. And like everyone's going to go, Wander Franco is a few years away from going to the Dodgers. How tired are we of seeing the Dodgers pick off everyone, doing what the Phillies should do? The Yankees, the Astros picking off everyone, the teams that are top 3 in payroll, just dominating. You have to kind of make it a little bit more of an even playing field for the smaller market teams. And they, to their turn, have to try.
And I agree. I completely agree with you. And like that is an issue with baseball. It's just when you don't have that competition, it's just not going to work. And it's going to destroy the sport as a whole, which is why the debates for a salary cap and salary floor has been coming up recently. So I feeling like this was been a great night with the conversations.
Totally.
I completely agree.
Was there one more thing? Did you want to mention the uniforms just super quick?
Oh, I think we should get a powder blue uniform.
We have powder blue.
And I know we
Full-time?
do. But that's what I think it should be. I think we should start
You mean
actually.
royal blue?
I think the Phillies should start wearing royal blue Phillies hats with a royal blue with the white pinstripes and a red Philly script.
Oh, okay.
Because I was thinking about like
That
kind
could
of
be
new fashion.
the City Connect.
And that's where I was going
Exactly.
at. That's where I was going at because I'm tired of seeing the throwbacks. Like I think the Phillies can have a throwback uniform, but I'm sick and tired of them not actually having a bit of fashion. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I want to actually see the Phillies like wear different uniforms because I had like the new Sixers jersey. You remember how popular they were when it came out? The Phillies can make so much capital off those jerseys, and I'm telling you, that would be great for this franchise to get more players like the Rays. Like you know what? The Rays they had a phenomenal jersey.
They're a bit of a clusterfuck, though. I will say they have some really good stuff in the bag, but sometimes the Rays will wear like their 05 jersey with their 2012 pants and like their 95 hat.
Yeah, it's like the show. You get to pick your different hat.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Wait,
Exactly.
Weirdest.
Like,
let me just search
dude's
it up.
dressed like the United States flag out here.
Yeah, seriously. I wanted to bring this up though, Austin, because one of the first articles I wrote for this site back like October, November of last year was about like the uniform change. And I really think the Phillies on a lot of levels need to rebrand. I think maybe a new name. I know people are going to hate me for that. But what I don't like about the Phillies uniform and what bores me is that the main thing is that I think the red is fine, but we could switch to maroon. So for the home uniform, for example, I think the font of Phillies in that bubbly kind of script doesn't really stand out and doesn't look strong. So I love like the white and the pinstripes. I think you could go white and maroon pinstripes. And the away uniforms, I guess, which pisses me off more than anything, they're gray. They have to be, I get it, that's fine. But the fact that it doesn't say Philadelphia across the chest when every other franchise like San Francisco, their away uniform, Kansas City, Minnesota.
They just rebranded too.
Not even that. Like they're not even wearing Phila.
No, like it should be, and it's just the same thing across the chest as a home uniform. I think it's got to be your city, and I think when you're, I'd rather it just say Philadelphia across the chest in a better font. Switch the colors. Connor, did you have any thoughts? Sorry, Austin.
On the uniforms, I never actually really thought about like totally rebranding. I mean, I guess it could be pretty cool. I mean, I guarantee you there wasn't a really back in 18 whatever when the franchise was founded.
Yeah.
When they decided to name the team Phillies, there probably wasn't a whole lot of thought going into that because like what is a Philly?
No,
Um,
it's interesting. Sorry, they were like they're the Philadelphians, right? And I think that's what like they called them in like '83 or whatever. And that's like what all the other teams. It would be like the Bostons or the New Yorks, and then the Inquirer, like the Philly Inquirer, started calling them the Phillies because it was just easier to say than the Philadelphians. But we've never changed the name, and we're like the world's longest running same name, same like location professional franchise. But we're also the world's losing list, like worst professional franchise in the history of sports,
win percentage wise, right?
winning percentage wise. I think it's time for a little bit of a change.
Well,
Yeah.
well, we could also not even just a change, like just a different type of like persona, even like you could still be the
Yeah.
Phillies, but like maybe the Quakers, the Philadelphia Quakers, like in the sense, like so how like they had the Quakers on the side, maybe start having like a different type of like Philadelphia persona on the jerseys where like they're like, oh, here comes the Quakers, here comes the Revolutionaries. I don't know. I'm just
It's
spewing
just
names.
I completely agree. And I wrote about this and got like so much vitriol back in October, September, and I made a list of names, and it wasn't like these are good names to suggest, but I was just trying to do like historical things because I think the city has so much history to it, and kind of like you said, what is a Philly? Like it's essentially a nonsensical name, and we have a nonsensical mascot that doesn't really correlate to the history of the team at all. That's just my spiel. I don't want to ramble.
No, I completely understand. And and you know what? You just don't know. Like some people, and I know you probably will get a hate for your opinion by some Philadelphia fans from the 1950s. It's
It's
happens.
fine.
Yeah,
We
the
all get hate.
grandparents are gonna get on you.
Oh yeah.
Good thing you don't have Twitter.
I'd be dead on Twitter.
Funny enough too, the Philadelphia Phillies were called the Quakers before.
Yeah.
I actually would like the Quakers, the Philadelphia Quakers.
Philadelphia Independent sounds pretty cool too.
That's cool.
That is
I
kinda
wanted
cool.
us to do something with like we can't do the pirates because like there's like a history of like pirateering in the Revolutionary War out of Philly, like guerrilla warfare. That was kind of neat, but you can't do pirates. I don't know what you do.
That's weird. There was actually 5 different teams in the MLB at one point in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the Brown Stockings, the Quakers, and then the A's.
The brown stockings.
What the hell?
Yo, bring it back.
So yeah, honestly, that would be a funny uniform, like the Tampa Bay Rays Pelicans uniforms. If you know what I'm talking
Yes.
about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's that's the ugliest uniform I've ever seen. But you know what? I'm gonna say that this is a good. Would you say this was a highlight to
This is
end
a
it?
good spot. Yeah.
I agreed.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thanks for everyone for listening. This is a 215 Seamer podcast with Austin Cass, Connor Doherty, and Dylan Campbell. I hope you guys listen next week to another great episode. By the way, stay after this. I'll talk to you. We'll talk to you guys later.